Hello students, welcome to the online platform of Department of Chemistry, Vivekanand College, Kolhapur. In the last module, we have just started the topic Bioinorganic Chemistry, and we have just discussed about exact syllabus of this topic, and then we have just seen general introduction of the Bioinorganic Chemistry. In the general introduction, we have discussed there are 30 to the 40 elements which are utilized in the biological process, and these elements are categorized into different parts. And accordingly, we have just categorized essential elements, non-essential elements, and the toxic elements. Again, the essential elements are further classified into subtypes. So that also we have discussed in the last module. Then we have seen the periodic table, and from this periodic table, we understood that which are the elements they are essential one and which are the elements they are non-essential one. So that we have discussed. Then we have seen the abundance of the essential elements in the human body. So here we have considered the human body as a biological process, and we have seen how much quantity of the different type of the elements are present in the human body. So now in the today's session, we are going to discuss one of the very interesting point of this topic, that is biological role of the essential element. So generally, students, we know that there are 30 to the 40 elements, and these 30 to the 40 elements are considered as the essential elements. And why these elements are essential? Already we have discussed in the last module, because these elements have some role in the biological process, and therefore these elements are called as essential elements. So it does mean that we must have some idea about the role of the essential elements which are present in the biological process. So therefore, this point is very important as far as concerning the just overlook on the role of the essential elements in the biological process. See, each and every element plays a very wide role in the biological process, but all the type of the work of the each element and all the type of the role of the each element that we could not explain in this concept, but just will highlight the some role of the some of the essential elements, those elements which are most important one, and those elements which plays very important role in the biological process, that only we will discuss in the biological role of the essential element. So let us start our discussion. So first essential element, which have atomic number 1, and we know very well that is the hydrogen. And what is the role of hydrogen in the biological process? So hydrogen is the constant of all organic molecule, and even we know the water. So in the water also there is a hydrogen, and we know that in our body or in any biological system there is a maximum quantity of the water, and remaining part is the molecules which are just present in our body. And hydrogen is the main component of the molecules present in our body, as well as the water content which is present in our body. So therefore hydrogen is one of the very important essential element in the biological process. So next essential element is the boron. So boron is very much important for the cell wall formation and its stability in the biological process. Again, boron just it helps for the movement of the sugar or the energy into the growing parts of the plants, as well as it helps to the pollination and the seed set. Basically, the pollination and seed set process, it is in case of the plant. Again, it is helpful in the strengthening of the bone as well as the activity of the vitamin D. So the next one is the carbon. Carbon also, it is one of the main element in the all organic molecules, we know that. And our body or totally body of the any type of the animals and body of the plants are made up from the organic molecule or organic material, and this organic material contains the carbon. So means carbon is one of the main component of the biological process. The next one is the nitrogen. So nitrogen is also very important in the synthesis of the proteins and the many organic compounds. And we also know that the protein is one of the important component of the biological system, and these proteins are present in the plant as well as in the animal, and this protein contains the nitrogen. So even though we can say that the nitrogen is a part of the protein, or without the nitrogen there will not be protein. So uh, protein is one of sorry nitrogen is one of the important component in the protein. So next one is the oxygen. So oxygen, it is atom, which is very interesting when we know that without oxygen we cannot survive. So it does mean that oxygen atom, it is most important in the organic compounds, and it is one of the important thing which is essential for the respiration of the living bodies. Means all the living bodies, they are just in the living state, it is only because of the oxygen, because oxygen is one of the important component in the respiration process of the living cells. Then next important element is the fluorine. So fluorine, it is useful in the mineralization of the bones. It acts as a supportive to the calcium. So calcium is a main part of the bone, calcium and phosphorus. And with the calcium and phosphorus, there is a presence of the fluorine also. So it acts as the it is useful in the formation of bone as well as in the strengthening of the bone. So the next element, that is sodium. So sodium is also one of the very important component which is present in the extracellular fluid. We know that there are two types of the fluids. Means one fluid is present in the inside the cell, which is called as intracellular fluid, and another type of the fluid which is present outside the cell, which is called as extracellular fluid. And basically, the more amount of the sodium is present in the extracellular fluid, and this sodium, it helps in the regulation of the blood volume. Again, it helps in the regulation of the blood pressure. Again, it helps in the balance of the osmotic pressure, that is a balance of the pressure which is present inside the cell and pressure which is present outside the cell. This pressure is balanced by the sodium, which is called as osmotic balance. And it is also used to maintain the constant pH in the body. So basically in the blood, the pH is maintained constant due to the sodium. And it is also helps in the functioning of the neurons and osmoregulation. So there are so many other functions also, but these are the some highlighted functions. See, I'm not going to discuss in detail the functions of all the elements, but we have to just overview, we have to just overlook on the basic role of the or basic importance of the essential elements present in the biological system. So next one is the magnesium. So magnesium, it is again essential for all the organisms. Basically, it activates the chlorophyll. So we know that the chlorophyll is the one of the type of the pigment basically present in the plant, and which is very much important for the photosynthesis process. Means it converts the food into the energy with the help of the sunlight. And for this, there is a need of the chlorophyll, and in the chlorophyll, the magnesium is one of the most important component. Basically, we can say that magnesium is essential element, most essential element basically in the plant. And it also activates some type of the enzymes which are present in the plant. So the next element is the aluminium. See, aluminium, it is a trace element which is present in the trace level in the body, and it is also useful to activate the different type of the enzymes which are essential for the synthesis of the porphyrin. Now, what is porphyrin? So basically, porphyrin, this is one of the large molecule which is constituted from the pyrrole ring. And this porphyrin ring, it acts as a ligand basically in the body. And it works by the many ways when this porphyrin reacts with a different type of the metal. And basically, for the synthesis of such a porphyrin, there is a use of the aluminium. So aluminium, it is a trace element, no doubt, but it acts very greatly because it helps in the synthesis of the porphyrin, which is one of the important component of the body. What is the role of porphyrin, how the porphyrin gets formed, and how porphyrin works. So all these things we have to discuss in detail in the next module, because in the next module there will be one of the very important concept which is called as metalloporphyrin. We have to discuss in detail about the porphyrin in this module. So for a moment, just keep aside what is the exact meaning of porphyrin, so that we'll discuss in the next module. Now the role of the silicon. So silicon, it is also again the trace element in the biological process, and silicon, it is also used for the better functioning of the cartilage. So cartilage, basically it is a tissues. They are soft tissues, and basically they are present in between the joints. And we know that the knee problem, it is because of the lack of the cartilage. So such a cartilage, uh, it is very important for the better functioning of the joints, and this cartilage is present in the joint. So which is called as a connective tissue, means which connects to the two joints, and they are soft one, and they are very important for the movement of the joints. And for the better functioning of joint, silicon just helps in the better functioning of the cartilage. Again, silicon helps for the reduction of the cholesterol in the body. It helps for the growth of the hairs, then our nails. See, I'm not going to explain how the silicon plays their role in the growth of the hair, how the silicon plays their role in the growth of the nails. this point will be very lengthy one. So I am not going to discuss in detail about this because this is not a part of our study. So we have to just highlight some other parts in the bioinorganic chemistry. But if you are interested, uh, then you can just find out how the silicon helpful in the growth of the hairs or in the growth of the nails. Okay, you can just find out according to your own interest. So the next element is the phosphorus. Phosphorus is also one of the main and important part of the RNA, DNA, teeth, bones, lipids, ADP, ATP, and the metabolic intermediates in our body. So now we know the RNA, DNA; these are the hereditary part of our body or any biological system. Again, the phosphorus is present in our tooth, in the bone also, in the lipids also, in the ADP and ATP. So ADP and ATP means these are the energy molecule which transfers the energy from one side to the another side. So in this molecule also there is a use of the phosphorus. Now the next one is the sulfur. So sulfur is also essential atom, essential element in the protein. So means nitrogen and the sulfur as well as the phosphorus, they are the essential elements of the some type of the proteins. Next one is a chlorine. Basically, chlorine is present in the NaCl because chlorine is a component of the NaCl, that is salt, as well as the HCl, which is one of the digestive fluid or digestive juice which is required for the digestion, which is basically secreted in the stomach. Generally, HCl contains chlorine as well as NaCl, which is the electrolyte in our body. It also contains the chlorine. So therefore, chlorine is also one of the essential component. Again, the chlorine is essential in our body fluid also, means NaCl is present in our body fluid, and in the form of the NaCl the chlorine is present in our body. See, whatever the essential element that I am going to discuss here, no one element is present in the elemental form in our body or in any biological system. These elements are present in some complex form in the biological system so that they can play their role. In the elemental form, no one element can play their role, means these elements should have in the complex form in some another form, and then only they play their own role. So next element is the potassium. See, potassium is also one of the very important element which is useful in the transmission of the nerve as well as nerve impulses as well as cardiac function, and it is also essential in almost all type of the organisms. Again, the potassium, just like a sodium, it regulates the fluid balance because sodium and potassium, they both regulate the fluid balance. How they regulate the fluid balance, that also we are going to discuss in the sodium potassium pump. That is one of the very interesting point that we'll discuss in the next module. Then potassium is also helpful in the muscle contraction. So whatever the contraction of the muscle, so that is also again regulated by the potassium. Then the next element is the calcium. So calcium is also one of the major and important structural component in the cells as well as bones. Again, the calcium is involved in the blood clotting. We know that there is a prothrombin in the blood, and the prothrombin, it is made up by the calcium, or there is a content of the calcium in the prothrombin, and this prothrombin, it helps in the clotting of the blood whenever we have cut in our body. So later on, the next element, that is vanadium. So vanadium is also one of the very interesting element which is generally essential for the chicks and the rats. Generally, chicks, in it does mean that small animals. It is just present in the small animal, and it helps in the growth of the small animals. If there is a deficiency of the vanadium, it may cause the reduced growth, as well as it may cause the reproduction system of any biological process. Again, due to the lack or due to the deficiency of the vanadium, there may be impaired tooth, there may be impaired bone. Again, there may be metabolism of the bone, means bone gets weaker as well as the tooth gets weaker due to the deficiency of the vanadium. So vanadium is essential for the biological process. So again, one of the very interesting element, that is chromium. It plays very important role in the insulin. We know that insulin, what is the role of insulin basically? So insulin, it is used or it is involved in the metabolism of the glucose. Basically, we know that whenever there is a diabetic patient, so a diabetic patient will have a more amount of the glucose, and there is a need of the metabolism of the glucose basically. And this metabolism process, it becomes faster in presence of the chromium. So means chromium plays very important role in the insulin. which is very important for the metabolism of the glucose, which reduces the sugar. So now next one is the manganese. So manganese, it activates the numerous type of the enzymes. If there is a deficiency of the manganese, basically in case of the mammals, then it causes the infertility in the mammals. So means manganese affects on the fertility of the mammals. If there is a deficiency of the manganese, then it affects on the fertility of the mammals. It leads to the infertility in the mammals. The next one is iron, which is very important, and that we have to highlight in this particular topic. That is iron. So iron is essential to all organisms as a main part in the blood cells, because we know that blood carries the oxygen from lungs to the each and every part of our body, each and every cell of our body, and this oxygen carrying process, it is only due to the presence of iron in the blood, which is generally called as hemoglobin and the myoglobin. So they are responsible to transfer the oxygen from lungs to the cells and to transfer and to store the oxygen. So means they play their role. So we have to just discuss in detail about the iron, that is about the hemoglobin and myoglobin, as a part of syllabus of this topic. So we will discuss in detail about the hemoglobin, myoglobin, and hence the iron in this particular point only. So next one, the cobalt. So cobalt is also one of the very interesting element which is essential for the many organisms, which activates the number of enzymes as well as the vitamin B12. So vitamin B12, it is required to keep the nerve and the blood cells healthy. So means if we reach with the vitamin B12, then it keeps the nerves and the bloods healthy. And basically for the activation of such a vitamin B12 and the enzymes, there is a need of the cobalt. So then nickel. Nickel is also one of the essential trace element, which is very active metal in the several hydrogenases and the plant ureases. So these are the enzymes which are just plays their role in the body. Hydrogenases enzymes, it just metabolites the hydrogen and converts into the hydrogen gas. Same urease, it just metabolize the urea and converts into the CO2. And these are the two enzymes, and these enzymes are activated by the nickel. Again, the nickel is important in the functioning of the liver. So then the next element is the copper. See, there are so many elements, we could not discuss in detail about each and every element, but we have to just overlook about what is the in general role, biological role of the elements in the any biological process. So then next one is a copper. So copper is a constant of the redox enzymes, as well as it is a constant of the hemocyanin, and it helps in the electron transfer process in the body. Again, next element is the zinc. Zinc is utilized in more than 70 type of the enzymes in the biological process. It plays very important role in the sexual maturation and in the reproduction process. Again, it stabilizes the coiled ribosomes, means they are the RNA and protein of our body. So for the stabilization of the protein and RNA of our body, there is a need of the zinc. Next one is arsenic. Students, arsenic, it is toxic also, but some forms of the arsenic are very helpful in the growth of the body as well as in the mortality of the any biological system. Next one, that is selenium. Selenium, it is one of the trace element which is essential in the mammals and some higher plants. Again, it protects against the heavy metal ions. Also it protects against the aging action of the free radicals. So this is the role of the selenium in the mammals. Again, the bromine. So bromine, it plays important role. It is essential in the red algae as well as in the mammals. Again, the molybdenum, it is essential to all the organisms except green algae, used in the enzymes connected with nitrogen fixation and nitrate reduction. Next element, that is iodine. So iodine is essential again in the many organisms. It is important in thyroxine metabolism. So thyroxine is one type of the enzyme which is produced and released in the thyroid gland, and basically it regulates the growth and the metabolism of the biological system, and therefore there is a very much importance of the iodine. So this is about role of these some highlighted essential elements. We have not discussed in detail about the role of the highlighted essential elements, but we have just overlooked uh, these particular element is used in this type of the activity in the biological process. See, rather than this, there are so many roles that can be played by the different type of the essential elements, but all their scope or all their importances that we have not highlighted here, but just we have highlighted some of the important roles of the essential elements. In the next lecture we will just discuss about the metal of warfarin, which is one of the very important concept of this topic. So up till, thank you, keep learning.